Hello, thank you for joining me on Easter. I'm wearing Easter black today because I'm being where I am and I'm in a state of grief. And I think it's important we don't try to find ways around grief or pretend we're not hurting when we are. In the past, my pictures lied. I posed for the family photos when I wasn't getting any love at home. I tried to paint a family I didn't have that looked happy, but I never had words, love, time, and attention. Now, today I'm not wearing Dolly Parton dress pink, but grief black. It's not because Christ hasn't risen. We know that story, and I know he suffered 2,000 years ago, but he isn't suffering right now, except for maybe grieving for a little boy named Isaiah, who's my son, who doesn't want an Easter basket this year. He doesn't want candy. He wants his mama. In Facebook times he's had very briefly with his mother. He's mentioned he's having trouble breathing. It hurts so bad. He's mentioned he's tried to grab the car keys and drive home. He's confessed openly to my band member as well as his grandfather the crimes that were set up to implicate his mother. He knows the truth, but then the court system has said things like, little kids lie all the time. So not only am I not being believed, but my little boy is not as well. This is a little boy who got up and sang the national anthem at only 4 years old, the anthem that talks about America and freedom. And this little boy does not have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You can't have happiness when your mama's ripped from you at only 9 years old, the mama who spent all the time with you. His journals talk of all the time mama has spent. And friends have written affidavits watching through the years of all the time and love and attention I've given him, as well as many people on social media that have followed my life with my son for the last 9 years that I've made very public. But I need to tell you why. My mother, when I was in my 3rd trimester, was diagnosed with cancer. She developed a cough and she had her plane tickets, had the baby blanket made, and her 42-year-old daughter was going to get to have a child. And Dad and her had the tickets, and I had to be sat down my 3rd trimester of pregnancy, and I had to be told that I would be becoming a mother at 42, the same time I'd be losing my mother. By the time it came for the child, my son, to be here, my mother was already neutropenic. She had no immune system and couldn't travel. I waited my whole life to share this with my mother. She never got to touch my pregnant belly. She never got to see me pregnant or be there during the delivery, but saw him being born on Skype. Then at that time, the husband that I thought married me because he wasn't a womanizer. He didn't just want to get me in the sack like men used to see me on stage, and then they'd think, man, I want a piece of that. And in dating, I kind of wondered why he never tried kissing me or coming on to me, and his words to me were I want to do things the Lord's way. So we did things the Lord's way. I hear thunder. I hear the Lord right now. We did things the Lord's way, and first time we were together, we conceived a child. And the child was a complete blessing. I said to the Lord, I prayed and I said, if you'll just give me a son, I will give him back to you. And I said the prayer of Hannah. I just didn't plan on giving him back to God at 9. I waited for 42 years to have a child, and now he's gone. I was the victim of a setup of witnesses that have video testimonies as well as affidavits that have attested to the setup they witnessed firsthand and the lies of how this child was taken from me wrongly due to lies in a setup. And you're welcome to email me or message me for those details and for those affidavits and video testimonies. You're welcome to be a part of the Fight for Isaiah jury of my peers to bombard this court with letters, with affidavits, with people stating how they have watched my son and I grow up through the years because Grandma wasn't there to share him with. I was able to share my son with people back home in Oregon and other people who got to see his first curl, blonde curl. Grandma didn't. They got to see his first steps. They got to see things I couldn't share with my mom. And I appreciate all of you who filled in as my mother and got to see her grandson grow up and made comments to me about how cute he was. I remember standing at the mailbox after waiting 42 years to have the baby when Grandma had passed away, wanting to say, "See my baby? Isn't he so cute?" And people would be kind of, "That's nice, lady." So my husband was gone 200 days a year, roughly. It's 179 days, some days 200 days a year. For 7 years, I sat at playgrounds alone, parks alone. I went through holidays many times alone because people in the music industry are entertaining. I didn't get married to be alone, but after conceiving a child, I did not have physical intimacy that a husband and wife should have for 7 years. Yet I stayed faithful. I did not have physical love for 7 years. I tried to make a better dinner, paint a better house. I handmade all the crepe paper roses for his mother's and father's 50th anniversary. I would mail Christmas presents. I would try to be super mom and super wife, thinking if I just was better or looked prettier or decorated better, that maybe I would get love. The words, we would go for walks and say, I would beg him to please spend time. He was more interested in the music industry, and we would take walks and he wouldn't talk the whole time, and then he'd say, "There, I took a walk with you. Don't you know I love you?" And then once again he would leave or be on the road. I stayed faithful even though I did not have physical love for 7 years. I started obsessing about the Bible and the rapture because I wanted to see my mother again. I wanted to have love, and she was the person I felt loved by, and I wanted her to see my little boy. The neglect, the isolation, and the loneliness finally took its toll. I did not want to break up my family, so I didn't look outside the marriage for love. I did not want to break up my little boy's family. Instead, it broke me. About 3 years ago, I had a breakdown. I suffered what was called a panic attack. I went outside and my little boy tried to tie a red cape around my neck, and I started to struggle to breathe. Then I said, "Oh my goodness, Mama can't get her breath." And I went to my father, who after my mother passed would drink a little bit of wine at night because that was a tough time. It helped him sleep because he missed laying next to my mother. And I didn't buy alcohol. I was kind of a health food nut, Zumba person. My friends know that about me. And so I said, "Dad, could I have a little bit of your wine? I can't get my breath. I got to steady my nerves." I couldn't reach out to friends because the one friend I did try to reach out to was so judgmental to me. I happened to call her on the phone and say, "I am really depressed. I have not had physical love in years since our child was born. I need help. I'm grieving so badly." And her response was, "You should be ashamed of yourself. Do you know who you're married to? Only the nicest guy in Nashville. Have you seen your house? You should be ashamed of yourself with all God's blessed you with." So I never reached out again. Never felt I could pick up the phone and call when I was struggling to breathe or even had deep grief. So I went to my dad and asked to have a little wine in my coffee decanter. Well, a nurse practitioner had put me on medication, double doses of a medication. Never told me not to mix it with alcohol, so I went on a walk during the day. I said, "Dad, would you watch Isaiah? I've got to steady my nerves here and get my breath. I can't breathe." The mixture of it caused me to pass out, and I was taken in the ER to the emergency room and to a mental ward, thinking that maybe I overdosed or committed suicide, which couldn't have been farther from the truth. Meanwhile, my ex had told people, my best friend in particular, that I had taken a handful of pills and tried to commit suicide when I did not. My son's father also was stated, with my father listening, he stated, "Good, now I got her. She'll do everything I want, or I'll take the child." And he's accomplished that. Very expert performer. Went over the entire courtroom. Former guardian ad litem would triangulate, and you can look that up on YouTube. When covert narcissistic people triangulate, they kind of go on smear campaigns behind your back. Every school, every church would start to talk to me like, "How are you feeling?" And I would say, fine. And so I had no credibility. I had no place to turn to, which is typically what emotional and mental abusers do. I was diagnosed with CPTSD from emotional and mental abuse. And I was told, give me your Bible in the hospital. And I said, I'm a Christian. And the psychiatrist said, yes, so am I. But God never intended you to live your life without love. Handed me a Harlequin romance and said I didn't even have to come to group therapy. Would come in and check on me and I'd say, oh my gosh, this is good. And she'd say, it is good, isn't it? So I kind of started focusing on romance, something that I feel God has given humans as to have heaven on earth, he wrote in scripture. He created sexual intimacy between a man and a woman and never planned on anyone living without that. And to live without that can make someone very ill. People need love and physical love and sexuality like they need air and water. And I deprived myself of that. And not only myself, but my husband deprived me of that. And so I'm here to tell you right now, I'm in the fight for not only my life, but for my little boy's life. I need a jury of my peers to get this little boy back. My little boy knows the truth. My little boy is standing strong. His therapist will not believe his journals, said that kids lie all the time, and his mother must have put him up to this because the father seems so genuine. So things aren't always how they seem. We need your help. We need people to review the evidence, to write the judges in the court, and bombard the courthouse with letters. We need your help, and I will not celebrate Easter or any other holiday until this little boy is home. I ended up writing affidavits and testimonies, sending videos of firsthand witnesses that was a testament of what truly happened. I went to take my little boy back to his father's, and I told him it was time to go to Daddy's. He broke down, had a panic attack, completely unable to breathe, screaming, I'm not going, I'm not going, I'm not leaving my mom. He had to be physically restrained by musician peers. We drove him back. We had tears in our eyes. I told him it would be okay and that Mama was going to continue to fight for him. Leaving, I got scared. I said, I know this will be turned on me. My witnesses said, no, it won't. We're here. We're witnesses. Sure enough, by one phone call from somebody high up in the music industry, one phone call, he was able to tell the guardian ad litem that the child's mother was hysterical, not the child. With one phone call, my child was taken from me. They wouldn't listen to firsthand witnesses. They wouldn't take their notarized affidavits, and I was robbed of due process. Prisoners see their children more than I have, and I've been a wonderful mother. My son is suffering terribly. I have not seen him, held him in my arms in 2 months. The court is hoping that the pain caused me to break and have a mental breakdown under the grief of not seeing my child, so that they can just throw me away as maybe being crazy and give the child to the father who they admire, who's high up in the music industry in Nashville. And I'm not going to break. I'm going to continue to speak out, stand up, and make my voice be heard. And I believe truth will prevail, and I'll continue to fight for Isaiah. If you'd like to be on the Fight for Isaiah team, if you cannot give for attorney fees or for a retainer for a criminal attorney, I ask that you review the evidence, message me, give me your email, and write letters on our behalf. I hope you have a happy Easter. Mine has not been happy, but sometimes there's good grief, and that'll be a song that I will be sharing soon called Good Grief. And I know that out of the ashes of this grief is going to come a very strong little boy and a strong woman. Thank you for your time.